your badge number, by the way?
It's season 3 of Riding with the Outlaw.
Mr. Chain, so in light of the county prosecutor's office being informed multiple times of the other party wanting to drop the charge, and in light of the county having no evidence, in fact, exculpatory evidence, of my innocence, it still chooses to pursue the charge of harassing phone calls. Well, that just about validates everything that I've said and lays claim to my claims of prosecutorial misconduct, malicious prosecution, and preferential prosecution, while validating the claims of this being a guilt-stricken witch hunt involving the county trying to use fear and intimidation tactics to cover its tracks. I personally am of the opinion that this move places the county in further violation of 42 U.S. Code 1985 in its tactics to further deprive the rights of the defendant by intentional interference into ongoing civil rights litigation, and shows a willful malice intent. The county and state is bringing these actions with the most unclean of hands, and I intend to prove it had knowledge of such, and its persistence further exacerbated injuries sustained. The DUI was staged by the county. Not only was no marijuana found, but I was never searched, nor was my car truly searched, and I have an eyewitness to that. I'm not a law enforcement officer, yet I know that if questioned on the procedure and protocol, 9 out of 10 law enforcement officers would likely note that this was out of protocol. There was, however, an insistence on non-permissive transport under false arrest due to being handcuffed and taken to the jail to take a field sobriety test which fell outside of Terry stop time stipulations. Not to mention anyone watching would see that no impairment existed, and that the county actually chose to fault me for the struggle in supporting weight on a bad knee injured from a motorcycle wreck, which was shown and communicated up front on camera. No follow-up testing or confirmation was done to detect the presence of any substance. All of this certainly makes this charge fall apart. The improper equipment was never notated and specified, which means the ticket in essence was written open-ended, giving the officer the ability to change his or her story up until the day of trial. If the charge is in regards to a headlight being out, well, it went out that evening due to the ice storm and icing. What type of money racket is Lafayette County running here to further financially penalize me for an act of God and nature, especially when this county is 100% responsible for disenfranchising me and my family to the fullest from its 2017 stunt? So that one most likely is gone. And finally, there's the disorderly and resisting arrest charge, where I parked next to the sheriff seeking out equal protections of the laws, which quite frankly were downright refused and neglected. I only went up there to seek out the sheriff of the county due to his checking my emails of grievances relayed regarding criminal behavior, which had been allowed to continue unchecked at the infliction of intentional damages on me. It was after normal business hours, and the signs indicated for Sheriff's Department, not for Sheriff's Deputy.
Hey, man.
Hey, you gotta move that.
I'll move when I talk to Joey. Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me. I'll move when I talk to Joey. When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the Sheriff's Department.
One more time.
I'm here at the Sheriff's Department.
Move, or you will go to jail for disorderly.
I'm not being disordered.
Okay.
I'm moving my car! I'm moving my car! I was moving my car! Ah! Really? Ah! I thought I was moving my car! Oh! Stop! Ah!
Of course, I recorded everything until I was cuffed and I was able to switch off the recorder in order to ensure the evidence was retained. The audio recording shows both officers, Dixon and Howell, lied on their written statements, which demonstrate a conspiracy of 2 or more officers acting under color of law, conspiring to deprive another of their civil rights. Look up 42 U.S. Code 1985 and 42 U.S. Code 1983 because that 100% describes what had happened here. I never once said no.
Hey, you gotta move that.
I'll move when I talk to Joey. Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me. I'll move when I talk to Joey. When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the sheriff's department.
One more
I'm
time.
here at the sheriff's
Move.
department.
Move, or you will go to jail for disorderly.
I'm not being disordered.
Okay.
I'm moving my car. I'm moving my car. I was moving my car. Ah! Really? Ah! I thought I was moving my car. Oh! Stop! Ah!
Okay, right here, Ethan Tidwell walks to the side entrance of the sheriff's department. I get out of my car as soon as he gets out and heads that way. He never once looked at me, never said anything. Now, as soon as I get to the back of my car, Courtney Dixon comes out the side and he tells me that I need to move my car.
Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me.
I
I'll move
respond
when I talk to
that
Joey.
I was here to
When
speak to
Joey
Joey
wants to talk to me, I'll move.
because Joey had
Otherwise, I'm not breaking
refused to
any law just
answer
for
any of my
parking in a
emails
spot that says
regarding
reserved for the
providing
sheriff's
equal
department.
protections to
I'm
the
here
laws.
at the sheriff's
Move.
department.
Move, or you will go to jail for disorderly.
He tells me I have to
I'm
leave
not
or I'm going to
being
jail
disorderly.
for disorderly. I said I'm
moving
not
my
being
car.
disorderly.
I'm moving my car. I was moving my car. Ah! Really? Ah! I thought I was moving my car. Oh!
Just like that.
Stop! Stop!
He's after me. Very rough arrest. 2 officers. And see this right here, this is where they're directly feeding into the narrative that the mainstream media and the whole agenda right now is trying to project. And that's really what I'm trying to show. I'm not anti-police by any means. I'm just anti-corrupt police. The problem is corruption continues to spread. Something I call trickle-down corruption. So you have Ethan Tidwell that pulls up right there. He gets out, he goes in. Then I open my door, step out, go to the back. I never cut my audio once except for whenever I was tackled, so I could preserve it.
I'll move when I talk to Joey.
He said, hey, you
When
gotta
Joey
move that
wants to
thing.
talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm
He
not
never
breaking
once
any
said that
law
I
just
could
for
speak
parking
to
in a spot
Joey.
that says reserved for the sheriff's department.
more
I'm
time.
here at the sheriff's
I never once said
department.
no.
Or you will go to jail for disorderly.
I'm not being disordered.
I simply
I'm moving my car. I'm
wanted
moving my car. I was
the
moving
equal
my car.
protections to the law guaranteed
Really?
by the Mississippi Bill of Rights
I thought I was moving my
and the
car.
federal
Oh,
Constitution.
stop.
Now, here's where some of the crazier things happen. If you look in real close, right to the right side of Courtney Dixon, he's the active one that's basically on my shoulder. Now, right there, the cell phone is thrown at the ground. Now, here comes Joey East. So, I have a few things to say to Joey. I went up there to address Joey because he checked 3 of my emails and did not respond. I got the read receipt, and after I got the 3rd read receipt and no response, I said, it's time to go and talk to Joey in person. Now, right here, you look in close, so Omar Ahmed and Ethan Tidwell make an exchange. You know, it kind of looks like a cell phone. And I had 2 cell phones, so it makes me wonder, did Ethan have one? Did Omar have the other? Was something being done? And then were the cell phones swapped? Did he know the password? Was there something that he was looking for? Yet Lafayette County refuses to give up
the camera angle that is closest to everything. And there's a reason for that. It's because that angle observed extreme misconduct. I mean, flagrant civil rights violations. Now watch right here. They had absolutely no business searching the car. I don't care what they say, they had no business searching the car. They knew that. And that's why you see Courtney Dixon looking back several times. See right there, I believe they opened the door, the passenger door right there, and this is where the illegal search begins. Now, let's count the officers. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 out there right now. In the middle of civil rights litigation. What I also think is extremely bizarre is when you look at the timestamp on everything. This all started before 5, just barely before 5. In fact, it's right around 5 or minutes after 5 when everything went down. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at this. Look at this. That is unbelievable. Uncalled for. And that just screams Fourth Amendment violations. But see, for Lafayette County, they don't care. Because it's a never-ending continuance. It's a never-ending continuance because they were allowed to get away with it before. And it created precedents. In turn, created a monster that is continuously just getting larger and larger and just out of control. The Lafayette County Sheriff's Department has fully weaponized itself, stemming from some political excitement, we'll say. Right here, look at all of them. Last I knew, especially when it was parked in their parking lot, in less than 30 minutes time, I'm thrown on the ground by 2 officers. The sheriff comes out, another one comes out. There's a swap that happens. Okay. Even looks like there's Courtney Dixon that slams my phone down on the ground and it actually jumps. And you can see that when you slow down the video. And they never stop committing crimes. This is the same thing that's happened over the last 3.5 years. The same thing. They have steadily just fucked up and continuously tried to cover their tracks, but in the meanwhile, leaving a liability trail 3 times wider each time.
Hey, you gotta move that. I'll move when I talk to Joey. Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me. I'll move when I talk to Joey. When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the Sheriff's Department.
One more
I'm
time.
here at the Sheriff's Department.
Move. Or you will go to jail for disorderly.
I'm not being disordered.
Okay.
I'm moving my car! I'm moving my car! I was moving my car! Ah! Really? Ah! I thought I was moving my car! Oh! Stop! Ah!
I never said no, and in fact, I was actually turning to get in my car to move it, like he said. When he said that I was under arrest. If you knew what all I had been through over the last 4 years, the false accusations, the presumption of guilt until proven innocent instead of the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. And that seems to be the same thing just about every court over here. You have to get up there and show that you didn't do it. Prove that you didn't do it. Instead of the accuser being a state agency, a county agency, having to prove their case against you. Now, I'm going to shut the fuck up during these parts right here, except for when I'm actually pointing something out, because I don't want to skip over this. So watch Omar. He's right there, the big guy standing in the back. So he turns around, he goes back in, and at this point, Sheriff Joey East is walking out. I guess he goes to prep him. So they stand me up. You see devices all over the ground. However, they didn't get the recording gear, which was actually in my front pocket of my shirt. Had I not have turned that thing off when I was slammed on the ground, I probably would have had that thing going until they put me in the jail cell to get what Lafayette County does not want to release, what happened on the inside of the jail, and the camera angle that was closest, that saw the passenger side of the car when there was 8 officers out there illegally searching it.
We're about to make the argument of the stacking them. Also, if it's up to the judge's discretion to either give you, not give you a jury trial, what are your reasons why in these cases you need a jury trial? You can't get a fair trial from people.
Because I think that it's very easy to see with the video evidence. I had an audio recorder in my pocket December 28th on the disorderly and resisting arrest charge. Courtney Dixon came out. He didn't actually ask the things that he actually put in his written statement. And then him and the other guy, the other officer, they both said in quotations that I said no, that I would not move my vehicle 3 separate times. Now, my audio recorder shows me never saying no one time. I'd be completely aware.
So why can't he decide that? Why is the jury needed to decide that as opposed to he deciding that?
Well, I think that in light of I've had extreme prejudicial treatment since 2017. It was something that I've raised evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. It was a setup by the county. There are multiple defendants in this, including the sheriff, Joe East. It is not fair for me to go to trial where one person decides my fate when I'm demanding 6 people decide my fate, 5 out of the 6 or more, because this thing has been so heavily tainted since day one. I'm doing a documentary. This town, this area just freaking hates me. They've gone to every extent to get rid of me, to abscond with their guilt. They made me sign a covenant to not sue Lafayette County, the Sheriff's Department, the City of Oxford, its elected officials, and basically the mayor.
All right. We shall make those arguments.
Hey, man.
Hey, you gotta move that.
I'll move when I talk to Joey. Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me. I'll move when I talk to Joey.
Like what?
When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the sheriff's department.
One more
I'm
time.
here at the sheriff's department.
Move, or you will go to jail for disorderly.
I'm not being disordered.
Okay.
I'm moving my car. I'm moving my car. I was moving my car. Ah! Really? Ah! I said I was moving my car. Oh! Stop! Ah!
Mr. Reardon, did Deputy Dixon ever tell you to put your hands up? No. Did he ever tell you to stop? No. Did he ever tell you you're under arrest? No. I'm talking about during the confrontation in the parking lot. I never audibly heard the command, you're under arrest. Never heard the command to stop. Did you audio record that interaction? Yes, sir. And have you provided me a copy of that recording? Yes, sir. All right. I'm going to play that recording, listen to the court. I know these are just background noises and stuff, but Mr. Reardon, you recognize that as a recording you took of leading up to the events on December 28th, 2020? Yes, sir. And that honk was Deputy Tidwell locking his car after he got out. Do you recognize whose voice that was? That was Courtney Dixon. Okay. Do you understand that that was a request to move your vehicle? Yes.
I'll move when I talk to Joey. Joey?
Is that your voice, Mr. Reardon? Yes, sir.
There's a man here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to you. I'll move when I talk to Joey. When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the sheriff's department. I'm here at the sheriff's department.
Move. Okay. I would have asked you, what did the sign say that you were parked in front of? Reserved for Sheriff's Department. Okay, and you just said you were there for what? I was there to see the sheriff in regards to my daughter.
Joey East.
What are you doing out here in the parking lot?
I needed to get a little Q&A with you.
I don't do Q&As.
You don't do Q&As?
No.
Well, can you answer a few questions for me?
No, I can't.
Why were you parked in that spot? I parked in that spot because the driver's side window was knocked out of my car. I did have a tarp there. Where I was parked, I could not hardly see when the sheriff was coming out through the rear view mirror. I couldn't see the side view mirror, and I simply wanted to speak with the sheriff because I couldn't get a response from him through email.
Why is the county not wanting to comply on the public records request? You told me.
You probably have to ask the county, man.
You told me that if I submitted it, y'all would comply. That was the last time that we spoke.
I told you we'd look at it.
And why did you think that sign didn't prohibit you from parking there? Well, there's the jail and the sheriff's department. If I figured the sign would have said for sheriff's deputies only. It had to have said authorized for official vehicles only or for sheriff's deputies only. I would have inferred it to be that. It's saying sheriff's department, reserved for sheriff's department. I was there on what I felt was official business to address the sheriff about a redress, about a grievance.
Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me. I'll move when I talk to Joey. When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the sheriff's department. I'm here at the sheriff's department. Move. So you go to jail this morning. I'm not being disordered. I'm moving my car. I'm moving my car. I'm moving my car.
Mr. Dixon's report?
I have.
In there, he says that you said, in quotes, no, 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 3 times.
That's correct.
Did you say that?
No, sir.
Does that recording confirm that you didn't say those things?
Yes, sir.
Tell the judge what you're trying to get at, Sheriff East.
Well, for approximately 12 months, the 12 months leading up to that, the mother of my minor child, who was 6 at the time, I had not seen her in 12 months. She had actually, prior to that, it was a false allegation of rape that was levied against me by the mother of my child, who then decided to live out a 12-month lie that Department of Child Services.
I'm going to interpose an objection. What's the relevance? We've got chancery courts in every county in this state, and not to mention Lafayette. We've got the luxury of having 2 chancellors here, and I think we'll give you an audience whatever you want as relates to child custody, child rearing, and the law, family laws, and I don't know why we've got to litigate that here, and I don't know, quite frankly, why he would be contacting the sheriff in that regard.
Your number was correct. I tried calling earlier. The deputy just got back a few minutes ago and spoke to her, saw your daughter, she's fine, spoke to Phyllis.
Yeah.
And she stated that she was following with the child custody services were telling her, and you could not see the child, and she just waited to see what the court did.
I think if you'll let him answer the question, he'll tell you why he's contacted the sheriff. But as to relevance, there was suggestions by the sheriff that he might have been there to ambush or do some bad. This goes to responding to that to show that his intention was not there to do any bad, but to try to enlist the law as he had been instructed by another department.
The Child Custody Services closed it out and said that she was she was making false claims. They closed everything out. They investigated it. That's incorrect.
I don't doubt anything you're saying, but that's what she told us and said, no, she did not want you over there.
I don't want to go back to Mom. I want to see her for a long time. And I stay one more night.
How was custody?
Oh no, I can't.
I want you to. You always won't want me.
But I miss you. I don't know when I can go home.
It's tough because you couldn't come over here for a
Do
year.
that, but to try to enlist the law as he had been instructed by another department of the state to do in order to obtain some visitation rights.
I'm going to sustain as far as I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole of explaining any wrongdoing or what he feels, what is the reason for the issues. I'm fine with hearing why he was there.
Because it's important for you to know that here lately over the last year, one of our fundamental rights as Americans, freedom of speech, has come under attack big time. Big time. And you know what? When freedom of speech comes under attack, the only thing to fall back on is freedom of expression. Just like you with your purple glasses, okay?
You have the video of the field sobriety test for us to look at now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, why not?
At that time, I didn't have a body camera, nor does my patrol car have dash cam.
What about Sally Port cameras? We got cameras in the Sally Port, let's look at that.
I don't have that.
You don't have it. I can tell you, I've asked for it 100 times. Do you know why that camera would not have been working that night?
Yes, sir.
Was there anything covering the camera?
I can't answer that. I didn't look at it.
You weren't paying attention to the cameras. Did you assume that they were on?
Yes, sir.
Where are the cameras in the Sally Port?
I know there's cameras there, but I can't tell you where they're at.
He had asked to speak to a lawyer, didn't he?
Correct. I told him once I finished speaking with him. Good.
Okay, you gave him that option to speak to a lawyer?
Yes, sir, I did. Once I finished speaking to him, absolutely.
Would that mean after the field sobriety test?
When I got done speaking.
Okay. So he was not entitled to ask a lawyer about making that voluntary decision. You said it was voluntary.
Correct.
And you said, did he cooperate? Your response was not at first.
No.
Were you talking about his, where you were going to conduct the test?
Correct.
Okay. It wasn't not cooperating with, no, I'm not going to be subject to this. It was, I want to do it here.
At first, he didn't want to do the test, and I explained to him that based off his admission of telling me that he had smoked marijuana, that I wanted to make sure that he was all right to drive.
Sure.
And then once I explained all that to him, he was fine with doing the test, but he didn't want to be transported anywhere.
You wanted to do it there at the scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you made the decision to go to the Sally Port.
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. And did you radio in that you were taking a possible subject to the Sally Port?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you let Mr. Weirden's wife drive the car from the scene?
I believe that she both said that she could. I never spoke with her.
Did you know who Matt Reardon was when you first encountered him?
I've never met him. I've heard of him, but I've never met him.
That's right. And did you know him by reputation?
Just of stuff that's happened in the past, what happened, I think, on the square in 2016.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, describe to the court, you say he was unable, there's no description of how he did not maintain his balance during the instruction phase.
So in the instruction phase, there's two clues that we look for, and that is unable to maintain balance and starts too soon.
Right.
He breaks, I put him in the position. I tell him to go ahead and put his left foot on the line, put his right foot heel to toe to keep his arms down by his side, and he breaks that stance.
Okay, so he broke his stance.
Yes, sir, that's considered unable to maintain balance.
Okay, so even if somebody just decides I'm going to stand here instead of standing in this uncomfortable position, then maybe not a balance issue, but if they break their stance, it's counted as a failure to maintain balance.
Correct.
And can you describe the mode in which, or the way he failed to perform the turn part of it?
Yes, sir. I demonstrate to him how to do the turn, and I explain to him the small series of steps to take. Mr. Reardon did an about-face military turn.
And do you physically demonstrate that?
Yes, sir, I did.
And would you have been in sight of that Sally Port camera as you did that when you did that?
Yes, sir.
And his turn would have been in sight of that camera as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any explanation why the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department has not provided us a copy with the Sally Port video of this standard field sobriety test?
I can't answer that.
Did you ask to preserve this video?
I didn't.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Did you ask to preserve the interior videos that would have proof of those things you talked about inside?
No, I did not.
Okay. You know who anybody did?
I don't know. When it comes to videos and stuff like that, it's your department. My rank doesn't require me to mess with any video at the sheriff's department.
Understood.
And during the whole incident, I really didn't think about those cameras out there up front.
And at the request of my client, I want to ask you this and make sure. Did you never requested the interior videos, right?
No.
Did anyone ever ask you to say, hey, Courtney, better make sure you invest you construct the ball?
No.
That's not your part of your job. I understand. I just want to make sure that you cover that. Sheriff Meeks, we've been produced a copy of the video of the parking lot in another one we're about to take up. How on earth do we preserve that video and not have the video of the DUI?
The moment of the arrest was preserved at that time.
Okay, so he was arrested for DUI there in Sally Port, and just like that video was preserved, the Sally Port video could have been preserved too.
But when you arrived, you knew this was a real call.
Yeah, absolutely.
You kind of
Knew that.
and you kind of You said you kind of waited to see if he would come talk to you, was that?
I didn't go to his car. I stood at the back of my truck. I was assuming he was there for me. He wanted to talk to me about something. So I stood at the back of my truck and waited. Raised his car, looked at him, and he wasn't there. So the only assumption I got then is maybe he's already inside. So I went in to go inside, got in the office, and as I was sitting down, I heard a high-pitched scream. I actually assumed that it was someone being assaulted, a female was being assaulted outside, because we started a safe side.
During those times with Nat, you know, have you ever been, intimidated that he was going to hurt you or anything like that? Or basically, did you expect him to try to jump in that parking lot that day when you saw his video?
What I have found about Matt Reardon is he's unpredictable, and he seems to be getting worse as time goes on. He seems to be believing, in my opinion, a conspiracy theory that only he believes. So I would take that as a threat. I do not think he's a stable person. Anyone that has pled guilty to a crime and believes that it was orchestrated does not make good sense to me. I think he's a threat. I think he's a threat to anybody that disagrees with him.
But at this point in time, what happened that day was he was standing in the corner of his car talking toward me and wouldn't move his car. Is that right?
No, sir. That particular day, he came looking for me.
Right. He was talking.
He came looking to the sheriff to address him because of whatever agitation he was at that time. So, yeah, I would think he would be a threat. He prepared for that threat if that happened.
He wasn't arrested for threatening the sheriff.
He was arrested because he did not leave when he was asked to for disorderly conduct, disobeying a direct order from a law enforcement officer, which also goes to show someone's ability not to comply and not a mental status. Most people leave when they're asked to leave or move.
Why were you parked in that spot?
I parked in that spot because the driver's side window was knocked out of my car. I did have a tarp there. Where I was parked, I could not hardly see when the sheriff was coming out through the rear view mirror. I couldn't see the side view mirror, and I simply wanted to speak with the sheriff because I couldn't get a response from him through email.
And why did you think that sign didn't prohibit you from parking?
Well, there's the jail and the sheriff's department. If I figured the sign would have said for sheriff's deputies only. It had to have said authorized for official vehicles only or for sheriff's deputies only. I would have inferred it to be that. It's saying sheriff's department, reserved for sheriff's department. I was there on what I felt was official business to address the sheriff about a redress, about a grievance.
That business that he has to attend to in person and hadn't had a chance to respond to your email?
So the email on criminal conspiracy sent a day prior that went read and not responded
I'm
to.
not asking him that. I'm just asking him about data and if we can answer the question about whether or not to give a guy a little bit of time to respond to an email instead of an instant type response.
I think I'd gone long enough at that point on being victimized and not seeing my child. I wanted to address the sheriff about not being able, about lies being cast and invoking DHS.
So you were angry?
I wanted to speak to the sheriff because it was his jurisdiction.
So you were angry?
I wanted to speak to the sheriff because it was in his jurisdiction.
Not answered, John. Not answered the question. Would you please answer the question? Yes or no?
No, I was fed up with the same things happening where I was continually being victimized. I think that's a fair way to characterize how anybody would feel in the same situation.
It wasn't going to be a pleasant meeting, right?
It was I want her held accountable for the false affidavits, for the lies, for the ultimately kidnapping my child from me.
Kidnapping? When did that?
I hadn't seen my child in a year prior to that. Meanwhile, paying $600 a month in child support.
Wait a minute. I thought I saw in some of your filings that there was an order from Chancery Court that you're in contempt over there.
I'm in contempt over there?
Yeah.
No.
For not submitting to a drug test?
You're absolutely wrong.
I'm wrong about that?
100%.
Well,
because before, prior to
court, then, sir,
objection,
you from seeing your daughter.
Relevance.
28th, which was your regular day. Then we go to June the 4th, which was your regular day. Then June 11th, that's 2 weeks later.
So,
right?
Do you not see the inconsistency here?
You don't get to ask the question. I'm asking you a question. You understand the question?
Yes.
Do I need to repeat it?
I'm a little confused why the state is injecting itself so badly into a family matter.
Well, there's family courts for that. I wish y'all would avail yourselves of that, but we've got a criminal charge in front of us now.
This gets into the dynamics of everything with Lafayette County and the state of Mississippi, the actual pure negligence, the culpable negligence, and the recklessness of everything. The Fourth Amendment, incorporated to apply to the states through the 14th Amendment, Baker v. McCollum, protects individuals against unreasonable seizures. U.S. Constitution, Amendment 4. Because they involve unreasonable seizures, constitutional claims for false arrest against state public officials arise under the Fourth Amendment. See Carter v. Butts County. An arrest is a seizure. Claims of overdetention under 1983, 42 U.S. Code 1983. Claims of overdetention can arise under the Fourth Amendment's right to be free from detention without probable cause, or under the 14th Amendment's substantive due process right to be free from continued detention after it should have been known that the detainee was entitled to release. See at 952, also see Canning v. Macon County. Proving a violation requires a plaintiff to establish that the defendant was deliberately indifferent to his due process rights. I think I've proven that there's been a deliberate indifference since day one. To satisfy that standard, a plaintiff must show three things. One, the defendant's subjective knowledge of a risk of serious harm in the form of continued detention even after the plaintiff had a right to be released. Two, disregard of that risk. And three, disregard by conduct that is more than mere negligence. So what I would like to say on that is that he's now a captain. Jared Bundard, his failure to take any steps to properly investigate and identify the claims made on affidavit to be grotesquely false in nature is sufficient to raise a question of fact as to his deliberate indifference towards Reardon's due process rights. Numerous courts have also reached the almost tautological conclusion that an individual in custody has a constitutional right to be released from confinement after it was or should have been known that the detainee was entitled to release. This is their job. They're supposed to know this, especially when it comes to the liberties and the freedoms of assumably innocent American citizens. Depending on what procedures the state affords defendants following arrest and prior to actual trial, mere detention pursuant to a valid warrant but in the face of repeated protest of innocence will, after the lapse of a certain amount of time, deprive the accused of liberty. Now, without due process of law. Question is, what is that certain amount of time? I sat in jail for 6 weeks' time. 3 manifest errors, actually more than 3. I should have been released no more than 14 days in. I should have gotten an initial hearing within the first 48 hours. A refusal to legislate equally for the protection of all would unquestionably be a denial of equal protection. This conceded, upon what ground can it be pretended that a refusal to execute or a failure to do so through inability, equally with reference to all persons, is not also a denial? I maintain, therefore, that the true meaning of this constitutional provision is that the state shall afford equal protection to all persons within its jurisdiction. Failing to do this, whether that failure is the result of inaction or inability on the part of the one or the other of the coordinate branches of the state government, the remedy lies with Congress. Whenever it appears that any state has failed to discharge this high constitutional obligation to all its citizens, it is not only within the power, but it is the solemn duty of Congress to enforce the protection which the state withholds. And that right there is my justification. It's the reason why I've called multiple congressmen and senators, and I have demanded that this particular fiasco is required of a congressional inquiry, congressional oversight. There needs to be a congressional hearing. There needs to be a congressional hearing on everything. Congress enacted the predecessor of Title 42 U.S. Code 1985, which prohibited private conspiratorial conduct. Congress recognized that men who go undisguised upon the public highway or upon the premises of another are not likely to be acting in official capacities. The 42nd Congress believed it had both the constitutional power and the obligation to prevent private conduct from interfering with the guarantees of the 14th Amendment, United States v. Williams, cited in Griffin v. Breckinridge. Griffin v. Breckinridge, the court articulated a clear position that Section 1985, Paragraph 3, was a remedial statute that was constitutional on its face and that reached private conspiracies to deprive citizens of civil rights. The court stated that 1985, Paragraph 3, reaches private conspiracies to deprive others of legal rights can, of itself, cause no doubts of its constitutionality. Thus, according to Griffin, state action is not required in order to bring a suit under Section 1985. Yet, if the constitutional right that is violated is the right to equal protection of the laws, Section 1 of the 14th Amendment indicates that those rights are violated only if a state shall make or enforce any law which denies to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Through this reasoning and interpretation, the state must be involved in order to find a 14th Amendment violation. As such, plaintiff brings forward his claims against the state of Mississippi and each official named within for their full knowledge of aggrieved violations. Lafayette County, Mississippi, and its officials named within for their full knowledge of aggrieved violations. And plaintiff alleges that the defendants conspired upon efforts with certain individual private citizens to hinder the plaintiff's right to vindication through the intentional initiation of frivolous and knowingly perjurious legal proceedings, and further refusing him the equal protections of the laws guaranteed under the 14th Amendment. In turn, the state of Mississippi, through denying the plaintiff the equal protections of not only its own laws laid out, but federal constitutional rights as well, have continued to deny plaintiffs absolute right to redress and vindication. Plaintiff alleges that there exist multiple examples of this now, and that evidence would demonstrate a continued repetitive effort that the state of Mississippi, and in particular Lafayette County and Lafayette County Sheriff's Department, have demonstrated an undeniable pattern of the same occurrences and conduct, leading directly to an ultimate end goal of the defendants absconding with their prior immoral, unlawful, and unconstitutional acts, further intending to seek indemnification for intentional liabilities by inflicting fear and pressure into the plaintiff so that he caves and gives in. It's the continuation of the latter that plaintiff alleges constitutes violations under the RICO Act, and as such, plaintiff alleges RICO Act violations in his complaint.
Our country has lost all sight of its values on which it was established. A lawless nation of laws. I've never in my life witnessed such an atrocity, yet it serves as a daily reminder that our freedom never truly comes free. it comes at a price. We never plan to fail. Rather, we fail to plan. And that is what truly holds each and every one of us back from our true potential. Be thankful for each and every opportunity that you have and make the most of it. Be unwavering in your commitment, even if others don't agree with you. Be certain and dedicate fully, refusing to give up and back down, and most certainly in your convictions when it comes to your perceived values of right and wrong in the face of true evil. The times truly testing of your faith are here. How will your legacy reflect on you and future generations that hinge on the decisions you make right now? Now is the time to take a stand for your freedoms of tomorrow, patriots. It's a decision you're gonna have to make. This whole ordeal has been the biggest nightmare I can't wake up from. I knew it would be the biggest challenge of my life, but this has been absolute hell. Nobody seems to take a damn thing serious. The government agencies who know they're in the wrong continuously make a mockery of everything because nobody seems to hold them accountable, which in turn makes the issue at heart grow larger than life. The influence of the media seems to be a make or break on everything in today's society. I've been every bit but silent on everything. I've resonated to a point of losing my voice, and it's like the mute button has been hit the entire time. It's like a story building within a story, which undoubtedly will lead to complete devastation. Not just for me, but for everybody. I've documented, journalized, reported relentlessly, thrown myself into the middle of a viper pit, because that's the only avenue I saw that could possibly produce a positive outcome and remedy the horrible things and horrible people that have destroyed my life and caused society to drift so far off track as it's been headed over the past decade. I made the conscious decision that I'd rather fall as a martyr to a worthy and noble cause than to ever surrender, accepting defeat. That is the primary reason I started Outlawed Productions and Writing with the Outlaw. The whole reason I've been openly documenting my journey and discoveries the way I have is to actually show the world who the true criminals are. Those set on total destruction and devastation to our way of life, to our Constitution, especially the ones in positions of power and authority that rule on their feelings instead of ruling equivocally and by established law. Those susceptible to influence, and of course, the immoral and unethical influencers that have used their power, money, and other means to absolutely destroy lives for their own personal gain. The ones that destroyed my life for their own personal gain. To show how low these low-life thugs hit, which is far lower than I even imagined when I tossed care and all inkling of fear to the side and said enough is enough. Hitting low is one thing, but hitting below the belt through a flagrant abuse of an unbelievably tainted legal and judicial system and steadily using that as a weapon of choice is a full-blown declaration of war on American soil by the very definition of a domestic enemy, a domestic terrorist, through acts of insurrection. This is exactly what our founding fathers warned us about. This is exactly what they had enough knowledge to foresee in the future. That is why they crafted the Constitution the way they did. That's why everything is laid out the way it is in the Declaration of Independence. I believe the preamble says it best in saying that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey.
So we've given you everything that is allowed under a public records request, which are incident reports, and that's what you've been given.
So the conversation that I had with Mr. O'Donnell yesterday at 4 o'clock, where he said that he was sending this, I guess, it's already bad enough that they're not producing the recorded phone call, which
Well, first of all,
I don't believe
no recorded
I don't
phone.
believe that for a second.
Okay.
I don't.
I mean, if I call one of the detectives right now on their phone, they're not recording.
They're crooked and corrupt as they can be.
Okay, well, that's all. I've given you everything under a public records
I understand
request that I'm allowed to give you.
Well, I guarantee a phone log, a call log, which I guarantee they have that, which, you know, it wouldn't be hard, which that'll, you know, I'll subpoena, I'll start subpoenaing that, nothing else. But it won't be hard to show what phone number came into the sheriff's department at whatever time Sheriff London received that call. So whether there's a recording or not, they're still identifying information. The county can lie and gaff it off all day if they want to. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change the fact that they're not going to be able to alter a call log, phone log. And that's where they find themselves. They're obstructing. It's sickening because they know that they frame it. They know that this is a political quid pro quo. What?
I don't know anything about all that. All I know is what I've been told
I
is that
cannot-
I don't have a phone call to give you. I've given you everything under the public records request we're allowed to give you.
I just talked
I
to
don't-
the county attorney yesterday.
I just hung
though.
up the phone with the county attorney.
And what did he say?
We've given him everything under the public records request that we're allowed to do.
He told me he was about to look over it, but was going to send it over to you to get to me within the next 30 minutes to an hour. And now it's like, you know, if it was not the Tannehills, the county wouldn't be trying this hard to keep that person masked. They wouldn't do it for anybody else. Guarantee you.
I don't know anything about who was involved with anything. I'm just telling you about the public records request and what we've given you and what I'm allowed.
This is a joke.
I've not been given anything else to even discuss with you about it. I don't know what any of the other documents might be that would not be considered incident reports that they, you know, can't give or what.
Have you ever heard of trickle-down corruption? Yeah. And that's the problem that this city and county finds itself in. There are a lot of, most of the officers at the sheriff's department, great people, great officers. The problem is the corrupt leadership. Everybody's got somebody above them that's twisting their wrist.
I apologize.
You probably got somebody twisting your wrist. You may want to do the right thing, but somebody's twisting your wrist. And that's what's unfortunate, is it pins people in an awkward position.
Thank you. That's all I know to tell you. So I'm sorry.
This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. Well, I'm holding a press conference.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.